Hi and welcome to another V's Cards video. In this video we're going to make an easy wow window card using some fabulous products, and I'll show you step by step how to create some of these cards, starting off with the card base. So I'm cutting down 2 inches off the card front and then making up a 2 1/8 piece which will be connected with the window card, and I can give you all the measurements in a document. If you are in Australia and you are a V's Cards VIP, that's for free for you. You simply email me your expressions of interest and I'll have the email in the descriptions below. I've cut down the designer series paper to allow for a small white margin on the card front, and now I'm adhering those pieces to the card front. You'll notice something different about this video. I've crafted more than one card to create a series of cards using the same concept. So I'm using liquid adhesive to adhere the DSP to the cardstock. I find there's a little bit of wiggle room to shift the DSP around if it's not perfectly centered in that margin. The small white margin is a bit more than 1/16 of an inch. To make the DSP a little bit smaller than the margin area, I simply take away 3/16 of an inch on the width and the length of the DSP. Being Australian, I was first used to measuring in centimetres, but through craft I have learned to adapt to inches, and I think it's actually a lot easier to divide up measurements when you're using inches. And now I'm up to adhering the window sheet in between the 2 card front pieces. I'm using the tear and tape to adhere the card front to the window sheet, and this is my preferred adhesive for this type of adhering. Liquid adhesive is okay, but there's always that risk of swooshing things around and having the adhesive visible onto the window sheet, which I want to try to avoid. Also, you could get sticky fingers using liquid adhesive, and I certainly didn't want to play around with sticky fingers while I was handling a window sheet. Adhesive and dirty fingerprints would leave a terrible smudge and cloudy effect on the clear window sheet. I am making sure that I put the tear and tape right on the edge of the cardstock pieces so that I'm not missing the window sheets. Now here's a quick glance at some of the fabulous product that I'm using for this project today. Stampin Up is having a DSP sale. You get 15% off selected DSP packs until the 2nd of August, so check that out. Also, if you purchase the Plentiful Plans bundle, you get 10% off. That is, you're buying the stamp set plus the dies together in one product code. If you are in Australia and you're purchasing Stampin Up, you don't have a demonstrator, please use me, Veronica Chuich, as your demonstrator. I would really appreciate your business. If you love these wow window cards, we're actually going to have a July remote learning class which you can purchase if you are an Australian resident. These cards remote learning classes normally have everything you need to craft the project except for the adhesive, and you can purchase that on Stampin Up using me as your demonstrator, or use whatever you have at home. I'm cutting around some of the beautiful Bloom Where You Are planted designer series paper using my paper snips, and I'm just allowing for a very thin margin around the shape because it is quite tricky to get in there and cut it perfectly. The easiest way to cut small pieces of paper is by rotating the small piece of paper with the hand that you're not cutting with, so both hands are constantly working together to meet up and craft that perfect edge. For these wow window cards, I am using both dimensionals, and later on you'll see me using the mini glue dots to adhere the plant images onto the window sheets. For this card design, I'm going to use some thin strips of cardstock to create some shells, and allowing for a multi-level look by placing one a little bit lower than the other, just to create some extra interest. And I'm going to adhere them right on the far edge of that designer series paper. In your remote learning class pack, you will receive some bits and pieces, pots and plants. They might vary to what's shown on the screen now, and you simply just build them up together. You could pop them up with some dimensionals or lay it flat using liquid adhesive. Each month, V's Cards has a remote learning class. For most of the classes, there are 3 projects. The projects are pre-cut to size and they are separated from each other and placed in a plastic bag. So, Project 1 will have a specific video link for you to watch a tutorial. So will Project 2 and Project 3. There is an introduction video as well, just to show you exactly what you should have received in your pack. Remote learning classes will not include any pre-stamped images or sentiments. You can use the ink and stamp sets what you have at home or purchase them at Stampin Up as suggested in the videos. Now back to our project. I've really taken advantage of the designer series paper sale. I've purchased the Bloom Where You Are planted DSP, and I've used the Perfect Plants dies to cut some of those shapes as well as fussy cutting. Now let's take a closer look at the Perfect Plants dies. This die set has 2 types of dies. One is a frame die, so basically it's going to frame images of the designer series paper Bloom Where You Are planted, or it's going to frame a stamped image with the matching stamp set. The other type of die is going to cut some intricate die patterns and images with some score lines perhaps, or just some smaller lines and shapes cut out inside of it. I first put together the pot underneath the macrame, and I decided that I needed to trim that white outline because I didn't think it looked good together with the macrame. I've also used the dies to create a leafy foliage for my plant, and I've just cut that directly on cardstock rather than the designer series paper to make good use of the versatility of the die set. As you can see here, I am using dimensionals for the base or the pot of the plant, and then I'm using my mini glue dots for the plant foliage when adhering to the window sheet to create more dimensions, so the pot or the base of that image is going to pop and the plants will be set back a bit. So if you like these window cards and you'd love to make some, you can register for our remote learning classes because we're making 2 window cards for July and we're going to make a 3rd surprise card. To become a V's Cards VIP, you'll need to be an Australian resident. Speaking of V's Cards VIPs, I have a special July offer for you. I would love to offer you the July remote learning class for free, just for purchasing $50 worth of Stampin Up product, using me as your Stampin Up demonstrator. Now, I do have a limit to how many of these packs I can offer you for free, so you will need to be first in, best dressed. I've tied a small piece of thread through that loop of the macrame image, and then I've double knotted it. Now we're up to stamping the sentiments, and I've used 2 stamp sets for this project, Plentiful Plants and Blossoms in Bloom. I'm using dimensionals to pop up the sentiments on the banners, so I'm making sure that the dimensionals are right on the edge on either side of the banners so that they're touching the designer series paper rather than the window sheets. As I'm going, I'm measuring the banner width to make sure it's not too short or too long, just right to fit outside of the window sheets. I've decided to add a strip of designer series paper behind the non-hanging plants so that it appears as though it is sitting on the ground surface. I used the In Good Taste designer series paper pack to create that ground looking strip, and that also happens to be on sale for the July paper sale, so if you love it, grab it. I'm adding a bit more detail as an afterthought to those open framed die cut pieces. I'm just using the green stamping blends that I happen to have, and I am just creating some shade and pattern in the leaves. Using the dark and light Granny Apple green stamping blends. Ideally I would have used the Plentiful Plant stamp set and I would have stamped tone on tone. So if I was using garden green cardstock, then I would have used garden green ink to ink up the stamped images. But because I have already almost finished the card, it was not possible for me to stamp onto the cardstock there. So just by playing around, this is what I came up with. This concludes another V's Cards video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please take a moment to like the video, and if you haven't already, I'd love you to subscribe. You can also comment in the comment section and share this video with your crafty friends. Thanks so much for watching. Happy crafting.